Hobin Yu, a frail high schooler drowning in debt and humiliation, discovers a mysterious channel offering fame and fortune. With no fighting skills, he takes on brutal street brawls streamed live. But as his views soar and enemies multiply, let's see how far he can survive. The scene opens in a classroom, where Paco goes live and greets his 700,000 NewTube subscribers. Many people have joined him for the broadcast. Paco mentions that during their lunch break that day, one of his classmates and the popular beauty YouTuber, Rumi, will be joining them. As the camera focuses on Rumi, she thanks everyone for watching and greets the viewers. The audience wonders if Paco was collaborating on a video, as he had mentioned the day before. Rumi flaunts her body in a playful and provocative manner, saying that she will do her best, and asks the viewers to be kind to her. The viewers are excited to see her act this way. Paco then asks Rumi to tell everyone what kind of videos she creates. She responds that she makes makeup tutorials for teenagers. Paco asks if she's saying that she has a makeup model for her videos. She nods and explains that she worked hard to apply makeup to a boy, and the camera then pans to the boy. The viewers burst into laughter as they see the boy, who resembles a Joker with thick black makeup around his eyes and a bit of lipstick on his lips. Some even wonder if he's a ghost. Though the boy looks angry, he doesn't show it, silently thinking that if they were going to use him for their video, they at least could have given him a share of the money. The boy's name was Hobin, and Paco calls out to him, asking him to greet the viewers and give a smile. The camera then turned towards Paco, who mentioned that if the viewers hit the subscribe button, he would give away a computer to one lucky subscriber. The viewers started teasing him, urging him to stop showing his back. Hobin thought it was all nonsense, convinced that Paco was just making it up. Paco then turned the camera towards Hobin and asked him to say hi to the viewers. Hobin, feeling forced, muttered a quick hi. After that, Hobin stormed off to the restroom to wipe the makeup off his face, fuming with anger. He thought to himself that he didn't even want to go to school anymore. He reminded himself that everyone had something they were good at, except for him, like Paco, who had 700,000 subscribers, or Rumi, the new beauty YouTuber, who could rely on her looks to make a living. Hobin had neither talent nor good grades, and he certainly didn't have money. He stared at his reflection, feeling as though he had nothing, and he hated that realization. After cleaning his face, Hobin returned to class, still thinking about it all. He couldn't believe that Rumi had put that makeup on the back of his neck as well. It only made him feel more pathetic. Just then, a boy jokingly kicked him and reminded him not to look miserable on camera. He asked Hobin if he was trying to ruin the live stream. Then Snapper continued taunting Hobin, asking if he was a joke. Hobin thought to himself that Snapper was Paco's right-hand man and the cameraman. Snapper was part of a group at school that bullied others, but Hobin knew he couldn't fight back. Snapper calmly told Paco that Hobin had just been looking at him in a way that seemed to frighten him. He teasingly added that Hobin almost wet his pants out of fear. Hobin, though unable to fight back, realized that Snapper was still part of the in-crowd. Paco then asked Hobin why he did something like that, noting that he had been pushing things too far lately. Hobin thought to himself that Snapper had earned his status by agreeing to be Paco's cameraman. He was a school climber, someone who got what he wanted by riding on Paco's coattails, using Paco's power as leverage, but acting as if he were a big deal. Snapper then asked Hobin what he planned to do about it. Hobin thought that Snapper had humiliated him enough with his kicks and taunts, leaving him unable to respond. He realized this was what school life had become. Violence wasn't just physical abuse, but mental and emotional torment as well. After a while, Rumi seemed happy, thanking Paco for helping her earn more than 300,000 yen from their actions. Paco rubbed his leg and commented that Rumi was hot enough to make old men cough up money. Hobin was shocked to hear about the 300,000 yen, thinking that they hadn't even done anything yet still managed to earn that much in such a short time. Paco then asked Rumi if she had received anything in return. She nodded, confirming that it was something she could look forward to. Hobin thought to himself about becoming a YouTuber, and Snapper casually mentioned that he should become one too. Hobin was taken aback by this suggestion. Snapper continued, saying that after all this time behind the camera, it was about time he started his own channel. Hobin realized that everyone seemed to want to be a YouTuber, and for a moment, he found himself thinking the same thing. Snapper turned to Paco, asking what they needed to do to start a NewTube channel. Paco responded, asking if Snapper also wanted to make money, but pointed out that NewTube didn't pay minors. He'd need to register using his parents' NewTube account and bank details. Snapper felt a bit uneasy, as he wasn't allowed to use his parents' account because they had caught him using it for scams in the past, and his grandparents had already passed away. He glanced at Hobin and asked, with a grin, if his mother had dropped dead yet, or if she was still around. He remembered Hobin mentioning earlier that his mother was sick, and then asked Hobin if he could use her account. Hobin was taken aback by Snapper's words. Paco quickly intervened, telling Snapper that he had gone too far and needed to apologize, as his comment was harsh. Snapper asked how his comment was harsh. Paco replied, saying it was crazy to ask Hobin if his mother had dropped dead. He suggested Snapper could have simply asked if Hobin's mother was still alive. Rumi jokingly chimed in, telling Snapper to apologize, but Paco Pago seemed to genuinely wonder whether Hobin's mother was still alive. Snapper, unfazed, thanked Pago for the advice, stating that he couldn't be the only one who was considered trash in the room. He added that everyone who had laughed should apologize as well. Hobin, frustrated, thought to himself that he should punch Snapper right then and there. He felt that Snapper should at least have been placed lower in the social hierarchy, but instead, he was acting like he had the upper hand. Hobin felt sorry for his mother, realizing he couldn't do anything to help her. He felt a sense of betrayal when he remembered how, during his visit to her at the hospital, she had lied to him. She had told him she was well enough to leave but continued to lie in bed, claiming she was holding the fort at home. She had asked him to focus on getting better, and though she couldn't help with the utility bills that month, she told him not to worry about it. Hobin had reassured her that he would take care of it, and insisted that she shouldn't worry about the money. He knew, deep down, that her condition would only worsen if she left the hospital. Now he wondered if he was about to get into another fight. He gave a faint, forced smile, and muttered that what he was even talking about. He wasn't the type to be beaten by anyone, but he knew he was lying to himself, just as he had lied to his mother. After that, Hobin went to the receptionist to pay 300,000 won. The receptionist apologized, saying that he must work hard to pay the fee every time, and asked if Hobin wanted a receipt. Hobin replied that it was fine, and thought to himself how some people didn't make that much during a short live stream, especially over lunchtime. But for him, 300,000 won was the equivalent of an entire week's pay at his part-time job. He worked at a shop, where he often had too many orders to handle and would frequently mess up. He slammed his hand on the table, thinking that he earned 50,000 won after working a full shift after school, and he couldn't believe that Rumi had made 300,000 won for such a short video. It felt like society was to blame, and his life seemed like a never-ending cycle of frustration. A lady named Bomi called out to him, asking where the patties were. Hobin felt a pang of regret for all the things he had just thought, but he quickly answered, telling her that the patties were in the freezer and she should look carefully for them. She thanked him for the help. Another boy nearby overheard and said he knew where the patties were, offering to go with her. Bomi replied that it was fine, but another boy chimed in, volunteering to get them for her. On the other hand, Hobin was flustered. He had finally managed to talk to Bomi, the prettiest girl at the store. She had greeted the customers and taken their orders with a smile. Hobin thought to himself that just looking at her made him happy. Just then, Paco appeared, doing a live stream and asking how everyone was doing. He mentioned that he was currently at McDonald's. Hobin was shocked to see him there and realized that Snapper was with him as well. Hobin wondered if they had come to film a mukbang video. A few of the customers recognized Paco and were curious about what he was filming. Paco explained that he was doing a challenge. Hobin was intrigued but didn't want to be recognized, so he hid behind the counter. Paco continued, saying that the mission for the day was to find the hottie at McDonald's. He had followed the rumors and received tips from his viewers before showing up. He then moved the camera toward Bomi, complimenting her by saying she looked gorgeous, acted exaggeratedly, asking for the super-duper burger, and teasing her by saying if he didn't get a burger that looked exactly like the one in the picture, she would have to give him her number. Snapper, meanwhile, tried to position the camera so that only Pago's back was visible on screen, claiming it was the best angle. Pago then told Bomi that the Whopper needed to be grilled. He thought to himself that no one had given him any information. He had just come there to get her number because she was so pretty. He quickly apologized, saying he didn't want to do it, but his subscribers had instincts that led him to act this way. He thought there was no way they could make a Whopper in 30 seconds, as there were over 10 ingredients. He jokingly mentioned that if she gave him her number, he would wrap up the video quickly and get her a coffee. He glanced at the other staff, wondering if they were jealous, and if they were, they should start their own channel. One staff member commented that he didn't even have Bomi's number, and that NewTubers were pretty annoying. Another staff member wondered what they should do. Paco thought that he could do whatever he wanted with Bomi, and pretend it was all for content creation. Just then, Hobin came to serve the burger, proudly mentioning that he had even put a flag on the burger, just like in the photo, and added an extra patty on the house. Paco and Snapper were both surprised to see this. Hobin, sweating a lot, said there were plenty of customers behind them, and suggested they just take the burger and step aside. Without waiting for a response, he quickly left. Paco's viewers were also shocked to see that the burger had been made in just 30 seconds, and Paco thought to himself that the boy really knew how to act cool. Hobin thought he was going to get beaten at school again, and wondered why he had done such a thing. The other boys were taunting him, and it seemed like Paco had something up his sleeve. Hobin realized that even if he did something, it wasn't like she was going to acknowledge him for it. Later, as Hobin was making ramen at his house, he thought about how Snapper was probably going to throw another tantrum the next day. He regretted not punching him earlier, and couldn't believe he had let Snapper into his house. Snapper was currently playing a game where he had earned 30,000 won, and someone challenged him to get 30 kills for a 300,000 won prize. Hobin thought that Snapper wanted to string him along, and if he had his way, he would beat Snapper within an inch of his life. He also felt sorry for his mother, who didn't know that Snapper had used her details to open an account. Hobin wondered why Snapper needed to open a bank account and start a NewTube channel using his mother's information. Snapper was making money off his mother's credentials. Hobin thought about the challenge someone had given Snapper and how easily he was making money. He guessed that Snapper had a lot of connections, especially since Paco had also promoted him. However, Hobin figured that maybe Snapper would give him a cut of the money, since it was his mother's account. Snapper had killed around 21 enemies, and Hobin was bringing the ramen over, thinking that he was even cooking for Snapper, so maybe he should have asked first. Hobin had even added extra seasoning for Snapper. Just as he was approaching, Snapper accidentally pulled the wire of the PC, and as Snapper was getting closer to 30 kills, the computer shut off. Snapper turned around, only to find that Hobin, holding the ramen, was about to spill it all over his face. Hobin felt sorry for his mother, knowing that he had ruined the kimchi she had worked so hard to make. He apologized to Snapper, insisting it was a mistake, but Snapper kept complaining, saying he had lost 300,000 won, and demanding Hobin pay him back. Hobin continued to apologize, explaining that it was just an accident. Snapper then asked if Hobin couldn't pay because he was broke. Hobin wondered why he was being beaten up in his own house. Snapper cruelly remarked that it was no wonder Hobin's mother had gotten cancer. Enraged, Hobin threw the kimchi at Snapper's face and punched him fiercely, thinking that it was the first time he had let someone walk all over him. Now getting punched didn't seem like a big deal anymore. After the fight, Hobin sat silently in the dark, reflecting on what had just happened. He found it strange that he hadn't felt any pain during the fight, but now that it was over, his body ached, as if the tension had caught up with him. It felt normal though, as if it was just part of the process. Hobin then looked around at his messy room, thinking about when he would finally finish cleaning it all up. He couldn't afford to throw food away like that. Was he really worrying about money again? Why was he the only one who constantly had to think about it? Every other kid got an allowance and went to cram school to get good grades. He wished he had been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Then, he wrapped himself in a blanket, muttering that he didn't care anymore and wasn't going to clean up. But lying there, he felt even more pathetic because he had to worry about the electricity bill. As he lay there, morning arrived, and his phone rang. He wondered who would be calling him so early. He had no idea who would be calling at such a time. He answered the phone to find it was Snapper, who angrily demanded to know if he had lost his mind and asked him to delete the video. Hobin wondered where Snapper's house was because all the houses on his street looked the same. Snapper seemed to be taking forever to answer, and then he asked again for Hobin to delete the NewTube video from last night. Hobin thought about the video and explained that the stream had cut out because he had tripped over the cable. Then, Hobin realized that the cable he had tripped over the previous night wasn't the one for the main system, but rather the cable for the monitor. Snapper was currently crying and mentioned that their fight had still been recorded by the camera. Even though the monitor was off, the stream was still live. Hobin was shocked to hear this. Snapper explained that he couldn't delete it himself because it was uploaded to Hobin's mother's account and asked Hobin for the password. Confused, Hobin asked what Snapper was talking about. He hadn't uploaded any videos and had even turned off the power strip to save electricity, so the computer should have shut down. Through his tears, Snapper wondered why Hobin had turned it off, explaining that if the computer shuts down during a live stream, the video was automatically uploaded. Hobin was stunned to hear this. He quickly checked NewTube, thinking there was no way such a failsafe existed. There was no way the video could have been uploaded just because the live stream was turned off. But when he checked, he found the video was indeed there. Their fight had been uploaded, and there were more than 10,000 comments. People had been sharing the link, and Hobin wondered why they had done so. He noticed a lot of comments in Japanese and English, and realized the video had gone viral within a day. He didn't even recognize some of the languages in the comments. He sat there, thinking about how he had gone from being an average loser to becoming a world-famous one. The first thing he needed to do was delete the video before things got any worse, though he suspected it was probably too late. Then, he saw a comment mentioning that the revenue from NewTube would be based on the views of the video. Hobin was shocked and wondered how much money he could be earning from this. He quickly calculated the potential earnings, and when he saw the number of views, he was stunned. He would earn 10 million won. The students in Hobin's class were watching the video, commenting that Hobin had used kimchi as a weapon. They wondered if he was trying to be a kimchi master, but it just made him look like a loser. One student joked that Hobin was fighting with kimchi while Sniper fought with a piece of ramen, calling it a battle between two alphas, and that they must be proud of themselves. Another student sighed, saying it was embarrassing for both their school and their country that the video was going viral worldwide. They wondered if those two would even show up to school after all this, and one of them remarked that if they were in their shoes, they would drop out. Just then, Snapper entered, opening the door and referring to Hobin as the new NewTube star. As everyone laughed at him, Hobin realized they had all seen the video. He now felt like a complete loser because of that one clip. He had put so much effort into sucking up to Paco to become part of the in-crowd, but now he couldn't couldn't allow himself to be humiliated like this. Hobin spotted a boy and decided to kick him, but the boy quickly stood up, sending Snapper stumbling back, and then started punching him. Snapper grunted in pain, realizing that the boy was heavy and stronger than him, so he couldn't move as easily. He looked over at Pago, expecting some help, but Pago just watched as the boy continued to beat him up. But Hobin noticed that Pago was smiling at Snapper, and from his experience of climbing the social ladder, he could tell that Snapper had lost everything. The boy continued to beat him. The scene shifted to the hospital, where Hobin received the hospital bill for the week, 1.2 million won. The receptionist, noticing his distress, hesitantly asked if he would be okay. She mentioned that it seemed like he hadn't even gone to school that day, probably because he was so worried about his mother. She knew that his father was absent and that the family's financial situation was dire, with Hobin being the sole breadwinner. She even felt like she might offer to pay for him. Hobin trembled as he looked at the bill, but he replied that he would take care of it. After handing over the money, he thought about how he still had 7.8 million won left. He wasn't worried about the hospital fees anymore because soon he would be receiving 10 million won. The video he had accidentally uploaded had reached 11 million views, and getting paid per view felt like a dream. As he walked out of the hospital, Hobin wondered if anyone would think he was embarrassed that so many people had seen the video. But in reality, he felt like he had nothing to lose. He was already a loser. Just then, Snapper appeared, crying and angry. He told Hobin that he had made some money from the video, but now he was the one who looked like a loser. Snapper grabbed Hobin, demanding that he give him half of the money, since he was in the video as well, and Hobin had used his likeness. Hobin thought to himself that Snapper had become a social outcast too, which was a shame. Then Hobin kicked Snapper and started beating him, demanding to know why he should give money to Snapper. It was his mother's account. Snapper retorted that he had started the stream. Hobin coldly replied that it was a shame, but it's not his problem. Snapper claimed that his reputation at school was ruined because of Hobin. Hobin thought to himself that he had already fought Snapper once and wasn't scared of him anymore. After the fight, they both sat together, and Hobin asked if Snapper was hurt at all. Snapper pretended to be, but Hobin didn't care. He still wasn't going to give him a single one, and his social climbing days were over. Then, Snapper showed Hobin the video of their last fight, asking if he was sure he wasn't going to pay him. Hobin was shocked to see it. Snapper explained that he had filmed it in secret, and that even though he was angry, he was able to produce quality footage. Enraged, Hobin grabbed Snapper by the collar, asking if he planned to upload another video. He told him to know when to stop. Snapper asked if he was an idiot, and who was going to watch that if we upload it, and people will just say they did it on purpose. Then he asked Hobin about the recording angle, suggesting they join forces rather than fight again, and he liked the money. The next day at school, Pago was live streaming, telling his viewers how surprised he was to learn that two of the boys from the recent viral video were his classmates. His viewers were shocked and eager to see they fight. Pago quickly responded, urging them not to say such things and clarifying that he hadn't made his friends fight. Snapper, however, suspected that Pago was using them as fodder for views since they were currently trending. Hobin, on the other hand, believed they weren't really friends. Pago glared at them both, insisting they simply greet his viewers. Nervously, they both said hello, referring to themselves as the loser duo. Hobin was clearly uncomfortable, and Snapper whispered to him, asking when he planned on doing something about it. Hobin reassured him, telling him to relax, as he knew exactly what needed to be done. Paco continued his broadcast, encouraging his divas to like and subscribe, promising that he would be raffling off a top-of-the-line computer. Suddenly, Hobin shouted that it was all a lie, that Pago was pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. There was no raffle, no winner. It was all fake. Hobin realized that Paco was only pretending to offer the computer giveaway. He thought of Snapper, who had suggested they team up to make money. He couldn't believe what Snapper had said. Later, Heighton reflected on the events of the previous evening, recalling Snapper's offer. Snapper had moved toward Hobin, proposing that they join forces, with Snapper promising to help him make a fortune. Hobin wondered if he was going to make more money. He asked Snapper if he didn't think they could go viral again with their next fight video. Snapper, who was behind the viral Pago video, made it clear that Hobin should be grateful for his offer of help. Snapper pointed out that Hobin still wasn't getting paid, and questioned if Hobin even understood how complicated the process was. He would first need to be evaluated before they could get paid. Hobin was confused by the mention of an evaluation. They had to be evaluated in order to get paid? Snapper continued, asking if Hobin really thought he could come up with a new contract on his own. He questioned whether Hobin believed the same type of content that had landed in his lap would work again. Who would record him? Who would come up with the ideas? And, most importantly, who would edit the videos or direct him? Snapper then explained that Pago's 700,000 subscribers weren't a result of talent alone. It was thanks to careful planning and the camera work that Snapper had orchestrated. Now, Snapper was offering to be Hobin's NewTube director, with Hobin's only job being to perform. Snapper urged Hobin to trust him, promising that they would both become rich together. As Hobin considered this, Snapper sensed that he was starting to fall for the offer. Snapper knew he could climb the ranks if he played his cards right and used Hobin's channel effectively. Then, Hobin asked how the money would be split. Snapper thought for a moment and replied that he would become a top NewTuber's director, finally shedding the label of loser. Snapper mentioned that he would handle all the work, but he'd make it look like 90% of the credit was his, with only 10% going to Hobin. After all, they were friends. He believed that this would help him get back into the in crowd, with Hobin in front of the camera, essentially serving as Snapper's meal ticket. Hobin, however, reacted by flipping him the middle finger and rejecting the offer. He asked why he would agree to just 10%, especially when he was the one in front of the camera. He also questioned the meaning of their friendship. Snapper was shocked. This wasn't how he had expected things to go, and he couldn't believe Hobin was turning him down. Hobin suggested Snapper should stick to making burgers and walked away. Snapper called out to him, realizing that he had no choice but to partner with Hobin if he wanted to avoid staying a loser. So, he offered Hobin 60%, with Snapper taking 40%. But Hobin didn't respond. Snapper, desperate, thought he had to make a choice: remain a loser, or rise from the ashes as a top NewTuber's director. He upped the offer to 80% for Hobin, with Snapper taking only 20%. Still, Hobin remained silent. Finally, Snapper, with one last attempt, offered 90% to Hobin, and kept only 10% for himself. Hobin stopped and turned around, asking what he needed to do, and to let him hear Snapper's great idea. Snapper thought to himself that Hobin was just a fool. Then, Snapper explained the type of content they would create: videos calling out bullies and exposing their lives. The scene returned to the present, where Hobin pointed at Paco, accusing him of pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. He revealed that the whole computer giveaway was a complete lie. Paco might pretend to be nice in front of the camera, but when the cameras were off, he was just a bully. Hobin wondered if Paco himself was scared of the truth, but reminded everyone that Paco had kicked him at school. If Hobin could get paid for being beaten up, he'd allow it. Hobin took off his shirt to reveal the injuries on his body, explaining that Paco was responsible for all of them. He then urged the viewers to visit his NewTube channel for more details. Other students, witnessing the scene, wondered if Hobin was scared of what Paco would do next. Snapper, however, was impressed. He thought Hobin was doing great, and together they would steal Paco's subscribers, bringing them to their channel. Hobin's performance was top-notch, and it seemed like he was desperate for the money. As the students watched, they saw Paco's face and started telling Hobin that he was really smashing it. They pointed out Paco's panicked expression, but Paco just laughed, asking Hobin what he thought he was going to do. The stream had already ended because Hobin's battery had died. Hobin was stunned, and Paco taunted him, suggesting that Hobin had been planning something nasty. He slapped Hobin, asking if he was trying to expose Paco. Paco then added that Hobin would get revenge for everything that had been done to him. Hobin simply glared at Snapper. Snapper was shocked, wondering why Hobin was looking that way. He quickly thought to himself that Hobin shouldn't be looking there because they were recording everything on camera, streaming live. This was amazing. It meant they were about to gain a lot of subscribers. As Paco continued to hit Hobin, the viewers began to wonder if Paco was really the same person they saw on camera, or if he was just faking it. Snapper wondered if Hobin thought they were stupid enough to call him out during their own broadcast, but Snapper had already started streaming on their channel. The title of the stream was Paco, the NewTuber with 700,000 subscribers, was actually a piece of trash. Snapper didn't need to worry about the cameraman because the star of the show, Hobin, needed to focus on performing for the camera. All they had to do was let Paco hand Hobin his ash so they could make money from the drama. Hobin, looking at Snapper, wondered if he would really get rich from being beaten up like this. He thought about the debt his family was in and how tired he was of making pocket change. Their channel needed to become famous if he was going to make big money. He realized that losers always got beaten up, but that wouldn't entertain the viewers. To make interesting content on NewTube, they needed to provoke the audience. A loser picking a fight with a bully would be perfect. As Hobin stood his ground, ready to fight, Paco grew angrier, taunting Hobin and asking if he was really going to take a swing at him. Hobin remembered the past, when Paco had disrespected his mother, and that triggered the fight. All the students were shocked to hear Hobin's words and whispered to each other, wondering if he had lost his mind. Snapper was bewildered by what Hobin was doing. Snapper couldn't believe Hobin had actually picked a fight with Paco. The viewers, however, were intrigued eagerly sharing the link to the video and watching the chaos unfold. Snapper thought there was no turning back now. Hobin had no choice but to fight, and he didn't seem scared. Snapper had no idea what was going through Hobin's mind. Hobin, on the other hand, wondered why no one was intervening. They didn't just have to watch. They could stop the fight, but none of them moved to break it up. With all eyes on him, Hobin couldn't take back what he had said. Paco was looking even more terrifying now, and Hobin felt the urge to beg for mercy. He looked up at Paco, whose thick neck was like a tree trunk, muscles bulging and tattoos spreading across his skin, all of it making him seem like an unstoppable force. Hobin couldn't understand why Paco had both strength and intimidating presence. His hands were massive, veins popping as if ready to burst, in stark contrast to Hobin, whose body felt small and puny like a shrimp. Fear set in as Hobin's fists and legs shook uncontrollably. Wondering what he should do next, Hobin thought back to the action movies he had watched. In those films, the hero often brought down their opponent with a tackle, or perhaps he should just apologize. The thought crossed his mind. Would it be possible to turn back time? Paco sneered, mentioning that it was no wonder Hobin's mother had gotten cancer. Hearing this, Hobin immediately lunged forward, grabbing Paco's leg and trying to push him back. This surprised everyone around them. The viewers laughed, seeing that Hobin couldn't even budge Paco an inch. Snapper thought to himself that Hobin was too small to pull that off, standing only 5 feet tall and weighing around 110 pounds. Did he really think he could tackle someone over 6 feet tall and weighing 180 pounds? Paco stopped him effortlessly by grabbing Hobin's jeans, telling him it was foolish to charge all of a sudden, especially when his own mother was in the hospital. Then, with a smirk, Paco lifted Hobin and warned that he would make sure Hobin was placed in the bed next to his mother. Without another word, Paco slammed Hobin to the floor. The others burst into laughter, remarking how loud the impact was and how size truly mattered in a fight. They all agreed Hobin wouldn't be getting up from that. Snapper grimaced, thinking that surely Hobin was in pain. The viewers were shocked, and many wondered if Hobin's actions were part of some scripted stunt. Lying on the ground, Hobin thought to himself that he hadn't realized how important size was in a fight. He recalled his previous fight with Snapper, which felt like child's play in comparison. But with Paco, this was the real deal. He knew he was done for. Whatever he tried, it was all a waste. Paco, looking down at Hobin, scoffed and asked if he thought it was over. He said that it was just the beginning. Then, he sat on top of Hobin, preparing to punch him again. He added that he wasn't done with him yet. Hobin's eyes widened in shock as the words sank in. As Paco raised his hand to punch Hobin, a voice called out from behind him. The boy told Paco that he was trying to sleep there. Paco, fuming with anger, turned to see who had the audacity to speak to him like that. The boy raised his head, unfazed, and asked that what Paco said. Paco's expression shifted immediately. The moment he saw the boy, a flicker of fear crossed his face. The students who had been watching were equally confused, wondering who this new kid was. Someone murmured that it was Munseong Kim, the rising MMA star of Korea. Hobin, still lying on the ground, realized that these two were both alpha males, but there was a significant difference in their levels. Kim wasn't just any alpha. He was the kind that devoured other alphas for breakfast. Paco, who was used to dominating everyone around him, immediately recognized he had no choice but to back down in front of someone stronger. Kim's mere presence changed the atmosphere in the room. His few words had shifted everything, leaving a sense of awe in the air. Hobin couldn't help but feel jealous. What must it be like to be someone like that? Someone with so much power and respect. He realized he would never be that person, and the thought stung. Kim calmly said that he was going to sleep now, as if the situation had never escalated. The other students were left in stunned silence, while Snapper observed with an admiring gaze. He thought to himself that Kim had it all: power, fame, and skill. He'd even heard Kim was getting private lessons from a world-class MMA fighter. Paco, clearly scared, quickly retreated. It was clear who held the real power. As the other boys began to leave the scene, Snapper smirked. Despite the brutal beating Hobin had taken, he realized something. Hobin had done something unexpected. He had gained some fans, even if it had been through pain and humiliation. While Hobin might have failed in the fight, he'd somehow managed to win in other ways. In the evening, as Paco turned on his phone and plugged it into the charger, he thought to himself that, finally, he could charge his phone. He couldn't even use the power bank because he had left it at home, and he feared he was going to die from boredom. But he was lucky. His battery died while he was streaming. Just as he was about to be called out by Hobin, wondering what he had been thinking, Paco noticed something strange. As soon as he turned his phone back on, he saw a lot of voicemails. He wondered why so many people were trying to contact him. His eyes widened in shock as he saw 300 messages, and asked himself what was going on. Trembling, he wondered what everyone was reacting to. Suddenly, he froze in disbelief as he saw the reason. The scene shifts to Hobin, who was currently taking a bath. He thought about how he had become the loser in everyone's eyes, but he didn't understand why. After all, it was just a label people had given him. At that moment, however, he felt incredibly awesome, knowing that he had given Paco a taste of his own medicine. Paco's explosive reaction was now trending online. While his phone had been off, Snapper had been live streaming a video, calling him out on NewTube. Hobin didn't expect the video to blow up so much that it would start trending, and he wondered how it had gotten so popular. He considered the possibility that Paco might sue him, but then he thought he could counter-sue for the beating he took, with the video serving as evidence. People began linking the video on various community sites, and the posts quickly spread everywhere, causing his channel to go viral. He thought of more videos and more subscribers, with people from every online community guiding others to his channel. This was only the beginning of Paco's downfall and the rise of the NewTube career of Bango. Hobin believed that the main content of their videos would revolve around fighting. He remembered his conversation with Snapper, who had mentioned a big problem: the length of the videos. Snapper had explained that they earned money through ads, not by the number of views they received on NewTube. People often mistakenly thought they earned money per view, but in reality, the revenue came from ads. To make a lot of money, they needed to create videos of an appropriate length to include plenty of ads. The problem was that they couldn't stay in a fight for more than a minute. Hobin needed to be able to last in the ring for at least 3 minutes, or their NewTube channel would fail. He realized that he had to figure out how to stay in a fight long enough to make it work, but if he couldn't last for at least 3 minutes, people would lose interest. He briefly wondered if he should go to a local gym, but he doubted that spending a short amount of time there would make much of a difference. He then checked the internet, hoping to find tips on how to get better at fighting, thinking that maybe the internet could offer some advice. He found an explanation that shocked him, making him realize that he needed to learn how to fight properly. He then checked NewTube, thinking he could learn best by watching videos on what to do. He wondered if he should search for taekwondo or boxing videos. As he browsed, he came across a Thai bow video and wondered what it was. There were many results, but none of them seemed useful for a real fight, or they were too complicated for a beginner like him. Real life wasn't like the martial arts moves shown in movies. He began to wonder what he had to search for to find what he really needed. Realizing that he would have to teach himself how to fight, he decided to search for ways to teach himself to fight. After some searching, he found a channel with a strange name and 0 subscribers. Despite this, there were videos, and he couldn't understand who would search for a channel with such a name. He wondered if he was the first to discover it, thinking someone had probably created it by mistake and doubted there were many videos. But when he checked, there were indeed many videos, and it seemed like the person had put a lot of effort into creating them. Hobin wondered why this person was uploading videos with no views. He speculated that these videos might be about learning how to fight, so he decided to check them out. As he clicked on one of the videos, a man appeared wearing a chicken mask. Hobin had no idea at that time that the obscure channel, created by a foreigner, would change his life forever. The man asked if they wanted to win a fight with ease, avoid getting beaten up in front of others, and protect themselves if someone started a fight with them. Before diving into the fighting techniques, he reminded them of the mindset he had taught them last time. When fighting, their mindset should be to never lose their cool. This was their first lesson, so they needed to keep it in mind at all times. If they wanted to use the techniques he would teach them, but couldn't control their emotions, their feelings would take over, preventing them from thinking clearly during a fight. In other words, if they could make their opponent lose control, it would be much easier to defeat them. Hobin wondered what this was all about and whether the man was serious. The man went on to say that the first technique he would teach them was how to get hit without it hurting. Hobin was shocked and wondered what this could possibly mean. It sounded like a scam. There's no way it could be that easy. If it were true, anyone would be able to do it. Hobin stood up from his computer, thinking that he should have known better and now needed to get to work, but the video kept playing. The man continued explaining how to get hit without feeling pain, urging them to keep teaching themselves how to fight until the next lesson. The scene shifts to the city streets at night, where a few pretty girls spotted Paco. Paco approached the girls and asked if they wanted to be part of his video, as he was currently interviewing pretty girls. People recognized him as the NewTuber who had been cancelled. He had gotten cancelled after starting a live stream, realizing that his call-out video was trending online, and it seemed like he was regaining public sentiment. However, even his apology video was seen as fake. Along with the fake laptop raffle he had exposed, people began digging into other things he had faked. Someone even created a website that tracked how many followers Paco was losing in real time. People were excitedly watching the number drop, as if counting down to a major event. Paco hit the streets, trying to win back viewers, but people no longer took him seriously. They mocked him, and he was no longer the rising star he once was. As Paco's career imploded, a new YouTuber was on the rise, Hobin. Hobin changed the name of his channel to Viral Hit, and everyone was eagerly anticipating his videos. There was no turning back for him now. Hobin arrived at his workplace and told his superiors that he was quitting. His superior was surprised to hear that. Hobin thought to himself that he could no longer pay his mother's hospital bills with his part-time job. He handed the man his resignation, including the hours he had worked that day. In the staff room, the other employees were curious about Hobin quitting. A girl mentioned that Hobin was a demon at flipping burgers. Another person said that Hobin was now a YouTuber. Someone else mentioned that they saw Hobin telling the manager he was quitting. They even saw him live streaming with his shirt off, and he was so thin, like a rake. They wondered how he could leave his house after everything that happened. It was so low to make money by calling out others, no matter how desperate he was. Hobin expected that kind of reaction, and had mentally prepared for it. Someone else said they checked out Hobin's channel, and that he looked desperate, clearly wanting more views. They wondered if he wanted the whole world to know he was a loser. Hobin thought that was still humiliating, and wondered if Bomi had seen his videos as well. They joked about how hilarious it was, maybe even speculating that he had called them out in the videos. Hobin thought that he had come in before she started her shift on purpose. He needed to get out of there before she arrived. The manager asked if Hobin thought he was too good for this kind of work now that he was famous, desperate for attention. The manager remarked that it must be nice to be popular, and suggested that maybe Hobin should start his own NewTube channel. Hobin became angry upon hearing their comments, glaring at them as they continued to make fun of him. He thought to himself that they had no idea what he was going through. Just then, Bomi approached him, telling him that what he did was really cool. She admitted that she didn't know Pago was like that, and had only discovered his true nature thanks to Hobin's video. She appreciated him for exposing it. Bomi then handed him her phone, asking for his number so she could keep in touch with him now that he was quitting. Everyone in the room was shocked to see this. She smiled and mentioned that she would text him soon.